From a man-made island that's literally sinking to an island nobody remembers visiting, this is the Billionaire Island tier list. Richard Branson owns planes, trains, and an island named Necker Island. That's Necker, not... Anyway, it comes with a full estate and a resort package, plus a secondary beach house on a different island just a few kilometers away, because one island apparently is a starter pack. You can book a stay on this island. A single room costs around $6,000 a night. Or if you're a baller, you can rent out the whole island for a measly price of $150,000 a night. Anyway, if you dig through the island's website, you'll notice it's only available to rent for 8 to 10 weeks, split up between April and November. So what happens there the rest of the year? Other than staff members dying due to mysterious head injuries. People online have had a lot of thoughts about this place. Maps may also have an opinion about the place. C tier. Jeffrey Epstein owned a private island in the Caribbean called Little St. James, which for a while was visited by a surprisingly large number of important people, including politicians, billionaires, royalty, and scientists, all of whom later developed a remarkably similar memory of the place. Some remember the plane rides, others the beaches. A few remember meeting with Jeffrey, and almost nobody remembers why they were there, which makes Little St. James less of a private island and more like a world's most exclusive I don't recall convention. B tier. Leonardo DiCaprio owns a private island called Blackador Cay. He bought the island in 2005 for $1.75 million while he was vacationing at a resort nearby. His plans for the island were ambitious: an ultra-luxury eco-resort with sustainable energy and low-impact development. Basically, a place where rich people could save the planet very comfortably. 400 jobs and $10 million in revenue per year. Cool. The water around the island already makes over 100 million from fly fishing. Right, but what if we build on it? And the steel beams? Artificial mangrove roots. And what about the fish? We'll build them a reef. They estimated to be finished by 2018. Later, environmental scientists studied and found out that parts of the island were already deteriorating. So currently, Blackador Cay is less of an eco-resort and more of a one lonely shack waiting for an Oscar speech to arrive. C tier. Pablo Escobar supposedly owned an island called Isla Grande off the coast of Cartagena. At the time, there were only a few hundred people living on the island, which was perfect for Escobar because it was basically witness protection. He built an entire state on the island, styled after 1980s Miami. He basically created a vacation home, a party house, a storage unit, and a don't ask what's in that room facility, all in one. With Escobar, comfort was optional. The scale wasn't. Some say the island belonged to the Turbay family, others say it was Escobar's. And with Escobar, the story tends to outrank the paperwork. So if you're ranking billionaire islands and don't include someone whose reputation alone could claim property, that just feels wrong. A tier. Larry Ellison, the founder of Oracle and tech billionaire, bought Lana in 2012 for roughly $300 million, and he owns about 98% of the island. He announced some big plans for the island, including improved infrastructure, building a sustainable agriculture future, and green energy, the general visionary stuff. Then, he spent $450 million to remodel the Four Seasons resort on the island and then remodeled another luxury resort a few years later, while the green future remained conceptual. The thing is, everyone that lives on the island works for him, and the contracts of their employment are pretty simple. You lose your job, you lose your house. Larry also pays people salaries and then charges that money back as rent and the other costs of living, due to which he has been given the title of Contemporary American King. This isn't a private island. He's just loopholed his way into feudalism. S tier. Mark Zuckerberg doesn't own a private island. He owns just enough of one. See, over the last decade, Mark has been quietly buying land in Kauai in Hawaii, piece by piece, and now owns around 2,300 acres on the island. He's converted all that land into what he calls the ranch, which comes with multiple mansions totaling over 60,000 square feet and a 5,000 square foot basement that has a blast-resistant door, its own power, food production, and water systems. This bitch was built to sustain itself. D tier. Silvio Berlusconi, the former prime minister of Italy. And he didn't officially own any private island. What he had was access, and that was enough. He was often seen at properties in the Caribbean, including an island known as the Silvio Bay, named after him by the Belizean prime minister. At one point, Berlusconi sued reporters for claiming he owned a house in Antigua, to which his lawyer clarified that it was, and I quote, a well-known fact that he had properties there, which was a very specific way to win a defamation case. He also owned a $500 million estate called Villa Certosa on the island of Sardinia, which wasn't really a retreat, more like a venue. Between getting 18-year-old girls to call him Papi and cultivating Mediterranean's Bengali energy, Berlusconi liked to party. The gatherings were later described in court as bunga bunga. So for turning a private state into a performance art and branding the whole thing with 2 words, A tier. Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid, the ruler of Dubai, doesn't technically own an island, he just commissions them. He's the guy behind Dubai's whole man-made island project thing, including the Palm Islands and the world map. The islands were meant to be sold to the highest bidder and then let tourism do the rest. Then in 2008, the market crashed and construction stopped. But that wasn't the final problem. Turns out having a vision isn't the same as understanding how water works, and the island started sinking, ranking below waterline. Kim Jong-un, the supreme leader of North Korea, does not own a private island. He owns the country, which means every island, coastline, and residence is already his. There's no Airbnb listing with booking windows and estate details. It's just geography under a single name. S tier. Paul Allen, the co-founder of Microsoft, bought Allen Island just because it had his name. He didn't build anything and he sold it for a loss. D tier. Walton family. Founded by Sam Walton, these guys are the owners of Walmart. Their combined net worth is roughly around $500 billion. They reportedly own islands in the Caribbean and the Caymans. Which ones? Good luck. Their names live somewhere in hundreds of pages of corporate filings for which you'd need the team of accountants and a mild disassociative episode to get through them. What is easy to find is that Walmart operates dozens of subsidiaries across tax havens with over $75 billion in assets offshore. So the islands aren't really retreats. They're an accounting strategy. C tier. David Copperfield. The magician owns Musha Cay in the Bahamas. It's an archipelago with 11 islands, and you can book the whole thing for around $60,000 a night, which means his greatest magic trick wasn't magic, it was pricing. The island is ultra private, fully staffed, and marketed like a fantasy, with some travel blogs claiming that the guests sign NDAs. Because if you were a magician billionaire, the final illusion would be absolute privacy. A magician who makes rich people legally disappear. S tier. Roman Abramovich owns New Holland Island, sitting right in the middle of St. Petersburg, an island surrounded by a moat inside a city inside a country. For most of its history, the island was owned by the Russian Admiralty. Abramovich bought the island for around $400 million, not to live or vacation on it, but to build museums and galleries for displaying art, which is great if it was just about art, because Abramovich also happens to be the kind of billionaire who enjoys giving his money a makeover. And now, years later, he's facing multiple economic sanctions while his assets are being seized, and in the middle of this stands a perfectly respectable art project. So for taking the private island concept, removing the palm trees, and replacing them with plausible deniability, A tier. Peter Thiel, the co-founder of PayPal, has some interesting real estate habits. He apparently owns a fallout bunker with a private airstrip and escape planes in New Zealand with some other billionaires. This is the same guy that said land was a bad investment as land is limited and there's no land that somebody else hasn't already claimed. So he backed man-made floating islands through the Seasteading Institute. Thiel hopes to create a libertarian island with no government or rules, which sounds great until these dudes show up. F tier. Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, owns a private country. He's launched multiple island projects which are part of NEOM, which include Sindala Island, which is basically a billionaire playground, The Line, a 170-kilometer city in a straight line, Oxagon, an octagon floating port, and a ski resort in the desert. The whole project was originally projected to cost trillions, then more trillions. And the funding structure is very simple. The state invests in the project is run by the state, and the state is him. During the launch of the project, they rented around 40 yachts to make it look full, and then fired the CEO for vibes. C tier. Oprah Winfrey, the people's person. She owns enough of Maui to not notice anything, and enough that her driveway could qualify as infrastructure. Oprah owns multiple properties in Maui and the roads connecting them, which means technically if she wants to visit herself, she doesn't enter public space. She just continues. And if that wasn't enough, she also owns a penthouse on Fisher Island. When your vacation requires aviation logistics, you're not the people's person, you're the zoning department. A tier. Johnny Depp bought an island called the Little Pond Cay in the Bahamas for about $3.6 million. He bought it while filming Pirates of the Caribbean and turned it into a personal haven. He named the locations on the island after people in his life and built it as a place to disappear between projects, which worked for a while, and then it became less of a retreat and more of a holding area with no separation between time off and everything else. After his divorce, he doesn't really visit anymore. C tier.